The first thing Karen did wasn't cry. She adjusted her pearls. Emergency lights flickered. Families sat wrapped in silver FEMA blankets. Rainwater still dripped from ceilings that no longer existed. The air smelled like salt, mold, and burnt wiring. And Karen Mayfield, president of Bay Wind Reserve, lifted a thin stack of papers like she was unveiling a charity gala donation. She looked straight into the camera and said, calm as a news anchor, open quote, "My home, the only one still standing, caused $17 million in damage." Close quote. Silence. The kind that cuts, not because it made sense, but because people wanted it to. Her house was rubble. Mine stood untouched on the ridge. Concrete foundation overbuilt. Reinforced glass, steel shutters. The house she called aggressive. The house she tried to ban. The house she tried to ban from aesthetic harmony. Now she was weaponizing it, and I remember thinking with a clarity that felt almost surgical. If she wants war, she just picked the wrong opponent. But this didn't start with a hurricane. It started the day I poured concrete. 20 years reading structural failure reports taught me one thing: storms expose lies. And HOA boards, they manufacture them. Karen hated that my property wasn't under her control. Her kingdom sat downhill, rows of identical vinyl facades pretending to be hurricane ready. Mine didn't match. Mine didn't answer to her. So she started small. A sign appeared at the end of my road: private entry, non-conforming construction zone. Subtle intimidation. I tore it down. A week later, it returned, hammered deeper. That was the moment she realized I wouldn't bend. And that was the moment she decided to break me. Karen didn't attack loud. She attacked polite. The envelopes started arriving. Cream paper, gold trim, the kind that pretends it isn't poison. Community Harmony Initiative. 4 pages explaining how my roof color was visually disruptive, how my reinforced shutters created an emotionally defensive tone, how my landscaping failed to project warmth. I didn't respond. That's when the meeting invite came. 5 couples in pastel polos sat in a semicircle like they were auditioning for a retirement brochure. Karen tilted her head, smile stretched tight. "Derek, we'd love to help your property align with our collective vision." I stayed standing. "My property isn't under HOA jurisdiction." You could feel the temperature drop. The next morning, my mailbox was spray painted. "Eyesore." I replaced it with steel bolted into concrete. No reaction from her. That was the strategy. Smile publicly, sabotage quietly. She began whispering during storm preparedness forums, said non-compliant structures could impact insurance premiums, suggested my house might alter wind flow patterns. Wind flow patterns, like I'd invented physics. Then Hurricane Marcus formed in the Gulf. Karen posted confidently, "Bay wind structures meet or exceed recommended standards." They didn't. I had drone footage, permit records, framing shortcuts, wet insulation sealed behind siding. So I sent one email to every resident: FEMA maps, structural comparisons, evacuation advisories. Within an hour, the HOA labeled me reckless and alarmist. Karen wrote me privately, "Cease your interference before triggering panic." I didn't reply. I was bolting steel shutters while she rehearsed press statements. When Marcus made landfall, my house didn't move. Theirs disintegrated. And that's when Karen decided to blame the storm on me. If this story is opening your eyes, hit like, share, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. 2 days after the storm, Karen scheduled an emergency community accountability session. Translation: public execution. She appeared on Zoom in a pastel blazer, hair perfect, makeup flawless. Behind her, a virtual background of Bay Wind before it collapsed, manicured lawns, identical roofs, filtered sunshine, a fantasy she refused to bury. Her voice was steady. We must address structural variables that amplified the hurricane's destructive force. Then she said my name. Slow. Surgical. According to her independent wind analyst, my reinforced home had created a wind tunnel effect, magnifying pressure, redirecting gusts, and weaponizing Hurricane Marcus against the neighborhood. Weaponizing. Like my foundation held a grudge. She shared diagrams that looked like a high school PowerPoint project. No engineering seal. No license number. Just arrows and red swirls dramatizing airflow like a cartoon villain's plan. The chat exploded. Half disbelief, half desperate relief that someone else could carry the blame. Then she dropped it. Unless I agreed to a private resolution, the HOA would pursue a $17 million collective lawsuit. $17 million because my house survived. I leaned into the mic. "You're blaming me for building correctly?" She smiled. Cold, controlled. For building irresponsibly within a cohesive community. That was the moment something shifted. Not anger, clarity. Because I'd been documenting everything for months: the permits, the construction shortcuts, the expired licenses tied to coastal frameworks. And that night, a plain envelope appeared on my porch. Inside, an internal HOA memo and a handwritten note: follow the permits. Alpine. Karen hadn't just lied, she'd built the entire neighborhood on one. I followed the permits. Coastal frameworks, the contractor Karen swore was elite. Half the inspection signatures belonged to an engineer who'd been dead for 2 years. Licenses expired, site visits logged on days with recorded lightning shutdowns, entire compliance reports copied and pasted. And Coastal's parent company? Alpine Capital Management, run by Karen's brother. That's when the performance ended. I handed everything to Ridgeway. Within weeks, FEMA investigators were walking through debris fields with scanners. The state attorney general opened an inquiry. A reporter showed up at my gate holding printed emails labeled cost-cutting directives. Then came the image no one in Bay Wind will ever forget. Private airstrip, dawn light, Karen in heels, pearls still on, a silver suitcase. Federal marshals stepped in before the jet door closed. The video spread faster than the hurricane. Court wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. Fraudulent permits, forged signatures, skipped inspections, the fake wind report blaming my house. Alpine's money trail traced cleanly back to her. The judge didn't entertain theatrics. The lawsuit against me, dismissed with prejudice. The HOA, dissolved within months. Karen, federal conviction. Her kingdom collapsed faster than the vinyl roofs she approved. I didn't celebrate. I stood on the ridge at dusk, wind moving through empty lots where the wind once stood. Storms don't destroy communities. Fraud does. If this story hit you, like, share, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Because sometimes the strongest foundation is truth.